with the early returns and the overwhelming number of Democrats who are coming out, we're on pace to maintain the majority in the House of Representatives.
You don't seem to be reflecting or second-guessing any of the policy decisions you've made. Instead, saying the message the voters were sending was about frustration with the economy, or maybe even chalking it up to a failure on your part to communicate effectively. If you're not reflecting on your policy agenda, is it possible voters can conclude you're still not getting it?
Are you willing to concede at all that what happened last night was not just an expression of frustration about the economy, but a fundamental rejection of your agenda?
I think that there is no doubt that people's number one concern is the economy. And what they were expressing great frustration about is the fact that we haven't made enough progress on the economy. We've stabilized the economy. We've got job growth in the private sectors. But people all across America aren't feeling that progress.
Bye-bye, love. Bye-bye, happiness.
Well, it's the day after. I don't know about you. I'm pretty wiped out. It's a great victory. Obama, the naked Marxist, has been exposed everywhere except at NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, and Fox News. Mainstream America had come to understand that this imposter was really a communist, genuinely a communist, a dangerous communist surrounded by even more dangerous people. He may be a nice fellow, by the way. Probably doesn't have a mean bone in his body. I want to repeat that. But I want to remind you that Pol Pot had been a mild-mannered professor in Cambodia who went to Paris to study Marxism, came back, introduced communism to his Cambodia, and there were then a mountain of skulls 3 million deep because the people around him were not as nice as he was. I warn you that what I'm telling you is very relevant today. I know you want to just have a victory lap, but this is not a ball game. This is the most dangerous administration the country has ever seen. We have missed a meteorite from hitting the heart of our republic. This man may have been flying in with Krypton. You know, I spoke with someone today who is of Russian heritage. Just said, isn't it a great day? Because she knows what's going on. Just passing by, you know. She said, do you know my grandfather was killed by Stalin? I said, no, I didn't know that. She said, all of my grandfather and his brothers were killed by Stalin in 1937. I said, were they anti-communists? She said, oh, no, they weren't anti-communists. They were just very, very proud Ukrainians and professors of the Ukrainian language. And Stalin had them executed, taken out in the middle of the night and shot. So you say, well, what does that have to do with Obama? What are you talking about? Well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, trickle up poverty, maybe you'll learn. I've been trying to tell you what it's all about. The guy at the top isn't necessarily the evil one. No, he rarely is. He's probably a nice guy. Hitler was a vegetarian, a teetotaler, loved his dog Blondie, couldn't stand to watch movies of animals being hunted, no problem killing millions of Jews and millions of people who opposed him because he didn't look at it. But he had plenty of people who were willing to do those jobs for him. So this is a repudiation of Obama. It's a repudiation of his radical leftist agenda. It's a repudiation of everything the man has done. He did nothing right. And here we are. Now what's going to happen? Well, don't get your hopes up, number one. It's the same. I'm sorry, Uncle Michael has to be the same cautiously optimistic man he was after that gentleman won in Massachusetts. You called this show. You thought Scott Brown was going to save the universe. You thought Scott Brown was going to run for the president. You thought... I said, wait a minute, slow down. He's only going to be another politician. And I fear the same thing with the Republicans. Yes, they moved a little bit from their center positions to embrace the Tea Party candidates. But do you actually think that John Boehner is going to start moving to the right now that they're back in power? Do you actually think John McCain learned a thing from this election? Do you actually think that John McCain realized that his Stepford wife, his Stepford wife lost Feingold? They were tied at the hip. Feingold got thrown out. How McCain stayed in, I don't know. Probably because he ran against someone without money and without real recognition. I don't know. But the point is, here we are. It's the day after. I feel very much like gorillas do in a zoo on a Monday after people have fed them candy on a Sunday. If you want to call about the prospects for America or just vent as to how you feel today, the phone number is 1-800-449-8255. We've got some amazing stories to come up. Here's Pelosi last night saying we're on pace to hold on to the House of Representatives. So I have a question for you. Now that Pelosi is going to be thrown out of the House of Representatives and the speakership, that is, what will she do next? I know that there's no room for a pizza shop in North Beach. A, there are very few pizza shops in North Beach, San Francisco. B, I don't think her brand of pizza would sell, number two. Now that Russ Feingold has been thrown out of his seat as a senator, what is Russ Feingold going to do? Do they really understand locks in Milwaukee? Do you think there's still a chance he could do something useful, like open up a store that sells decent corned beef? I don't really know. Now that Ron Klein in Florida, this is the biggest shocker of all, by the way. This is an amazing story. And joining us today will be the gentleman who beat old Ron Klein. Now, Ron Klein is in a district which contains a lot of people who liked Ron Klein. But apparently, his competitor won. The African-American war hero who came back, who was smeared by Ron Klein and his Democrat cohorts, won. And that gentleman will be with us on the Savage Nation to talk about it. We have not been able to reach Ron Klein. We do know that he's looking into opening a franchise of Katz's Delicatessen in Boca Raton, but I don't think that the early bird crowd is waiting for yet another corned beef emporium. Now, what about Mr. Kendrick in Florida? Kendrick lost. I don't think he will inherit the earth. I know that the meek shall inherit the earth, but I think he will inherit his uncle's big and tall clothing store. Here in San Francisco or California, we have the reverse of the rest of the country, because in California, as you well know, it's not that they're leading the pack anymore. Let's put it to you this way. An animal has a head and a tail. California has long thought it's the head, while it's been the tail for a very long time. In fact, some would say California politicians are what's beneath the tail. But we won't get into that because this is talk radio and it's a family show. Here we elect a throwback to the 1960s of the lowest order, a man who has never held a real job in his life, a man who believes only in taxing, and engulfing people in red tape, a man who believes that only by passing cap and trade can we save the earth, a man who was not a good governor to begin with, and he wins now against a woman, businesswoman, who spends $130 million of her own money who loses. You had another woman who lost. She runs against a very unpopular, very distasteful Democrat named Barbara Boxer. Nobody liked Barbara Boxer. The Democrats were ready to get rid of her. Forget just personal hygienic problems. We're talking about her personality and her effects as a legislator. She wins anyway. So how does Carly Fiorina and Meg Whitman lose when there should have been a slam dunk? They were both women and they were both business women, yet they lost. There's a simple answer. I know the answer. Because Meg Whitman, although she spent $130 million, and this is a lesson, by the way, if you're in New York or Milwaukee or Florida, if you have any impact on your Republican friends, warn them. What I'm going to tell you is very important for them to know. I'll tell you a little bit more later. I can't give it to you all in a few breaths. I'm going to go to another story. California again. What happens? They vote to legalize marijuana and it gets shot down. Pot is out. Why? You'd say it's a left-wing state. It elects Moonbeam. It elects a throwback governor, left-wing, and yet they reject legalizing marijuana. How's that possible? I'm the only one who knows the answer on the Savage Nation. Nobody knows why that happened except me. I'll be right back to tell you all about it right here on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
With the early returns and the overwhelming number of Democrats who are coming out, we're on pace to maintain the majority in the House of Representatives.
Send Fredo off to do this, send Fredo off to do that. Let Fredo take care of some Mickey Mouse nightclub somewhere. I can handle things, I'm smart. Not like everybody says. Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect.
I'm sorry. I can't help myself. I don't know what one has to do with the other. How out of touch can a Mad Hatter be? Where's Lewis Carroll now that we need him? Nancy Pelosi was made for Lewis Carroll cartoon. I've never seen any. How did this happen to us? We had an imposter put in as president who's a dead ringer for Alfred E. Newman from the Mad Comic days. And then we have a Mad Hatter as a Speaker of the House. They wreck the country. They destroy our integrity, wreck our morality, destroy our posture worldwide. And the night of the election, when everyone sees the ship going down, she's on the back of the ship saying, we are doing fine. The ship is going forward. Okay, here we are. Now, we can make a lot of jokes today. I guess we should just let, breathe easy. I mean, vent a little bit. It was good everywhere. A few areas, no. I mean, you thought Harry Reid would lose to Sharon Angle. Let's put it, do you know anyone who won recently in Las Vegas at a casino? Let's put it to you that way. Let's leave it at that. I mean, expecting Sharon Angle to win in Las Vegas would be like expecting your brother-in-law Murray to go to Las Vegas and come back $100,000 richer. Okay? Does that answer that question? The witch, that's another story, the witch job. That had to go because she was portrayed as a lunatic, and that was the end of that story. People weren't willing to gamble with I was once a witch. It's like Joan Blondell, I married Joan. It was enough of that already. We had already a crazy housewife a few times already. So that was that. Oh, I promised to tell you something that I forgot already about. The pot thing. Why did the legalization of pot measure lose in far left California? There's something most of America doesn't quite understand, and certainly the Republicans don't understand it at all, and they're going to lose if they don't understand that I know more than they do about what's going on in the country. Let me explain it to you. The Hispanic vote, legal and illegal, was the key to victory for Jerry Brown. Once it was exposed that Meg Whitman, rightly or wrongly, had fired an illegal alien or whatever, that was the end of the road when she looked mean and heartless, and she fired the woman and said, fire her. So you have to understand that the dynamics of California are unique in America. The large number of Hispanic families in California oppose legalization of pot because they don't want their children hooked on that horrible, disgusting weed that they know poisons the mind of people. Never mind the propaganda. The Hispanic people, by and large, are hardworking people. They don't want their children tied up in the drug trade nor even using drugs, and they said no to legalizing marijuana, and that's why it lost. It goes back to what happened during the should gays have the right to marry here 2 years ago or a year ago. It was roundly defeated, but largely because 9 out of 10 African Americans who all voted for Obama voted against legalizing homosexual marriage because African Americans are socially conservative. You don't know that because the popular media would have you believe that they're all crack addicts and they all are hip-hop artists. But that's the opposite of reality. And that is something you don't understand. And that was 9 out of 10 African Americans voted against legalizing homosexual marriage back when Obama ran and won the presidency. It was 7 or 8 out of Hispanics said no to legalizing homosexual marriage, even though they voted for Obama. And it was 9 out of 10 Chinese American people who voted against same-sex marriage. So this is something that the Republicans still don't understand. They still don't understand what they're doing with regard to that. And if they run Romney, if they should run the invisible man, if the Republicans run another non-entity for the presidency like Whitman, they're finished. Obama will be president again because he'll start moving to the center. Obama will move to the center. He'll start pitching the people that he got the first time. I'm warning you, they're lining up Romney, and Romney's been nowhere when we needed him. Nowhere did we hear Romney, see Romney. He sees no evil, hears no evil, and speaks no evil. We have been through hell over the last 2 years. Where was Romney? Nowhere. Now, one issue did this man appear. The Ground Zero Mosque, out to lunch. Nothing. Zero. Look at what we've been through during this horrendous coup by the Obama leftists. And who was helping us? Sarah Palin was fighting the good fight, along with many people on the internet and, of course, talk radio. We were the deciding factor. I would like to believe my book, Trickle Up Poverty, had something to do with alerting America and educating America to what the man was about and what he's going to do next. And I want to now turn it to Obamacare. The Republicans promised they would repeal Obamacare. Isn't that why the governors won, right? Even though it's a federal law. But wasn't it all about Obamacare and the economy? Largely, somewhat, partly, right? Amongst many other things that the man did to this country. But the fact of the matter is, Obamacare was a big factor. The health scare fraud, what's really in the bill. Do you really know what's in the bill?